to step onto the stage, smaller than this, when I was 6 years old, being slightly smaller than I am today, standing in front of an audience less than 10 kids. As I stepped into the microphone, I started to recite my story, but I froze in the middle of my presentation because I had simply forgotten the ending to Rapunzel. A fairy tale story began my public speaking journey. Ladies and gentlemen, I grew up in a small family of 4, with 2 parents and an older brother in the suburban city of Suraya. In our house, there used to be a tiny room, which used to be a childhood room where it consisted of everything. You name it, from TV, to dolls, to action figures, to art blocks, and books. And I was hooked on books. I, at a very young age, was already fascinated by the colorful arts of the book series Peter and Jane. I had not yet learned to read, as I was only a baby, but I was already carrying around this book everywhere I went. My public speaking journey continued from kindergarten into my school years. I was representing my school in numerous competitions where I was presenting factual speeches. However, the catch is that these speeches were not prepared by me, they were prepared by my teacher, passed down from my seniors, then to me. At a very young age, I was already memorizing facts and figures, but alongside reading Rami Awang Murshid's books, the father of the horror and genre thriller in Malaysia, just like Stephen King. Even for impromptu speech categories where I would need to think on my feet and present a speech on a topic that I chose on the spot, I was extracting facts and ideas from essays and articles that I have read. I tried to expose myself to different topics because wide reading can help you to provide ideas, facts, and stories that can make your speeches to be much more engaging and enriching. Hence, I was able to calm my thoughts and calm my mind before presenting because there is a smooth flow of ideas. Having said that, as I have learned throughout my school years to present factual speeches and to apply, I was winning trophies for my school. However, it begs the question, have I ever learned how to craft my own speeches and my own stories? This is where Toastmasters International came into my life. Toastmasters International is a non-profit educational organization where it teaches members to prepare prepared speeches, hone their impromptu public speaking skills, and also leadership and communication skills through a wide network of local clubs. Through self-paced and self-structured modules, members get to learn how to prepare their own speeches, develop impromptu public speaking skills, and also to receive constructive feedbacks to enhance on their self-confidence and also professional growth. Since I enjoyed my time as a public speaker in school, I wanted to do it again when I entered into university. Hence, I seeked out as many public speaking opportunities as I can, from groups, activities, to clubs, until I came across Salon University Toastmasters Club. My experience as a public speaker in university was slightly different when I was in school. I get to learn how to prepare my own speeches through a 9 of speaking modules. However, the catch is this time that these stories, these speeches must be from my own personal life stories. Let me see a show of hands if you ever think, my life is not that interesting though. I see it. I respect the gentleman at the back. I had the same thought as well. And this is begs the question for us to think, for me to think. How can I craft my life stories to be as engaging and as entertaining as possible? Not only that it has to be entertaining, but powerful enough that it can send a moving message to my audience. To top it off, how can I continuously deliver powerful stories? And this is where my years of reading books came in. There is a saying, ladies and gentlemen, that we begin by starting to imitate others. Mimicry is a stage of learning, the first step to mastery. Hence, when I realized this, in order for me to begin, I would need to take as many inspirations as I can from the books I love. The saying, you might be thinking, where and how do I know about this saying? And it's of course through reading. Because reading can be a learning activity where we expand on our understanding and vocabulary and learn to apply them in our speeches, and we get to articulate and speak more clearly as well. I recall the times when I was on the edge of my seat reading detailed, gory description of the crime scenes from the novel of Chris Carter. I also remembered that I was bawling my eyes out reading the ending to the novel Sounds Like Love by Ashley Poston. So many impactful stories, so many impactful novels that I wanted to emulate the similar story experiences into my own speeches. What reading have taught me is that organizational storytelling and persuasive techniques are very important. I learned that I need to have a captivating hook, a strong, solid body of content, and also a touching ending with the hope that my audience can be inspired by my message and apply it in their lives. My years of reading have catapulted me into winning trophies for when I was a member of Salon University Toastmasters Club and now as a member of Gamuda Toastmasters Club. However, ladies and gentlemen, winning trophies was only one of the lucky outcomes of a very enjoyable process. I enjoy crafting my own speeches, dissecting my stories to be as interesting as possible, to be as thrilling as the novels of my favorite authors. Furthermore, mimicking their story structure, flow, and emotions into my speeches, I get to witness my audience's reaction, how they felt touched, how they felt inspired, and how they felt entertained by my speeches, the same effect I experience when I read the novels of my favorite authors. This is why I love being a book lover and also a public speaker, because of how impactful a good story can be to us. However, imagine being this too during the pandemic. Ladies and gentlemen, when the world shut down due to COVID-19, there is a shift in our daily life. TikTok slowly became our favorite social media. Did you remember that there was a time when we all suddenly became baristas, making dalgona coffee? When we all suddenly became a baker, making sourdough bread? And when we all suddenly became dancers, dancing to the latest music? I see some dancers in the audience. And I was not excluded from that TikTok buzz. What started out as a platform for me to watch funny videos, simple recipes, and lip-syncing to silly audios, it slowly became a platform for me to express my love for books. Ladies and gentlemen, as Franz Kafka once said, that a book can be so good that it will be an axe to the fervency within us. When a book is so good that you cannot keep it to yourself, that you must share your reflection and also intellectual discovery with other people. I have always loved sharing my reading experience with other people. However, you can only imagine during the pandemic that my interaction can be limited to only my family and my closest of friends. However, it did beg the question whether can I widen my sharing reading experience during this time. So that is why I started to share my reading experience online from how it started out from a little corner of the internet, slowly grew into something that I would have never expected. A community of thousands of people where we gather because of our love for stories. Ladies and gentlemen, the words that I carry today are from the books that I loved growing up. The words, the ideas that I mimic from the stories that I admire, slowly molded into the fabric of my speech. Because as they say, the words that we read today quietly will shape the way we speak loudly tomorrow. What started out as an excitement for fictional worlds and real-life admiration for real figures have become a starting point for me to express myself. My love for books have shaped who I am. And because of reading, I'm able to present crowd longest speech presentation in my life and standing on the stage of TEDxUTM sharing my story with all of you. Hence, ladies and gentlemen, I would like you to think if you ever had those moments in your life where you were very excited to talk, to speak, to share with your loved ones your reading experience. If you ever had that book, or perhaps a TV show even, a movie, a theater show, think about why are these things are so good that it made you so excited to share. And lastly, think if maybe your story might be the next. I am looking forward to seeing all of you expressing yourself, dear book lovers and story lovers, and I will now pass the floor back to our MC. Thank you.